I did have half my head
Like-
shaved for a while.
Same. Still. Funny. Was it? No, it wasn't half your head. You had like the undercut, didn't you?
It was like a third. It was like up to about here.
How far back did it go?
Like
Just
all the way
whole
back. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you points for that at least.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Bjorn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians who are here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
So Ubisoft really recently just released a like half-hour video of some proper Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay, because the last time we did that, it wasn't really gameplay.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're hoping to actually look into some of the proper gameplay for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ubisoft.
Sorry, so really quickly, that was a lady Viking assassin. So I'm wondering if you have the have the two options.
Yeah, you do have the two options.
Did you know this and you didn't tell me?
I thought you already knew.
No, I've just been making the joke the whole time. The name Eivor is a woman's name in Scandinavia in the Viking Age. And then the bearded was like the byname, which is supposed to like remark on some kind of merit or like strange or fascinating thing about the person's character. So I was always of the mindset that you were playing as a transgender woman who was named Eivor the Beardless because she was a woman who was able to grow such a massive, luxurious, awesome beard.
And
So this
look
whole
like a man.
and look like a man, and this whole time I've been saying that it's a woman. When we do this, we're going to be a lady
I'm okay with that.
because historically it makes more sense to have a woman be associated with a woman's name.
That's fair.
And Oswald, who's the sort of elderman to be to inherit this territory, needs your help to take him down.
I'm learning about like characters' names and like storylines in terms of that, and then like what's going to happen in the storyline based on this campaign that we haven't played. Like that's a little bit frustrating. I feel like they
That
could have.
seems like a big giveaway
Yeah.
for what's gonna happen.
Like to like specifically name characters that you're fighting through the whole thing and like to kind of go up with that, like that's pretty frustrating on my part because I really like to get immersed in the story. I don't like giveaways or spoilers, so I'm a little bit annoyed.
Can you tell us a little bit about the changes to combat this time around? We wanted to basically add a lot of new mechanics to it.
The gameplay looks pretty cool, like the actual graphics and everything. I really like the design of it. It seems like a very kind of like hack and slash, a little bit more than they kind of used to do before with the prior games as well. It seems like real heavy, almost like a Diablo level of like butchery, I guess, kind of in the game.
So we added like some dual wielding for the player, like a stun system in there, and we really needed to do this to sort of portray that sort of the brutality that comes with being a Viking.
So a lot of Assassin's Creed is very much kind of like jumping around and like flipping over dudes and just like trying to do like sneak attacks and like parry and ripostes and all kinds of things. And this kind of seems a lot more brutalistic in terms of like a stun where you literally just like bash a dude in the face with like over the head with a shield.
That was
just like
insane. I mean, the reason why I kind of like that is just because like the shield was not that way, but the shield was very much used as an offensive weapon.
that's like one kind of theory that we base a lot of our fighting off.
Okay.
Is that it was used much more as an offensive weapon than just simply something there to kind of like stick out in front of you and bat away things. It was more actively used.
Yeah, exactly.
And absolutely I agree with that. It's great to see them actually using a shield to do that. But I just mean
it's
like
just the technique of
it's the technique. Like they couldn't have just been like holding it and like hit the dude in the face or like crack him upside the jaw, like how we have like the one concave skeletal face of a dude who that probably happened to. It's got to be like WWE over the top of the head with like a crowd screaming in the background. Yeah, come up, Sally. Like just ridiculous. I mean, there's still like a actual literal ram-shaped battering ram, which is a little bit more of a later period kind of thing with like a mangonel that you might see in proper siege warfare. As far as we know, Vikings didn't really do siege warfare. They didn't really have siege weapons specifically. Yikes. Tattoo. The costuming here is
very
what you'd
shaky,
expect.
yeah.
It's pretty shady. I don't know if that's like a shillelagh she has on the back of her back, or if it's like a weird misshapen bow or something. I can't really see in this.
Yeah, I thought it was some kind of like a large bow or something.
It looks.
I wasn't 100% sure, but
I think it's supposed to be a bow, but it's a little bit wanky.
Yeah, she looks like she has about like 10 belts on her. One of those is holding a sword. I don't know what the other ones are doing.
Decoration. Some of the shields looked pretty nice, like the close-ups we got of the ship coming in, and like the hail of arrows coming down, and her kind of like walking across like all the men and like making the commanding orders and everything. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the actual proper gameplay looks way better than what we saw in the prior one, just in the level of detail and kind of commitment to all the graphics and everything.
Yeah, way better than a couple of shots that we saw previously.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has her allies. They can take care of the rest of the army. Now it's time to go one-on-one against Rued in one of our boss battles, actually. Oswald, in this case, prefers for Rued to be kept alive, and so you basically have to choose: are you going to go against his wishes or to stay true to your nature?
Okay, so we saw a bit of like a boss fight as well. It seems pretty structured and straightforward, at least in terms of this one, where it pretty much kind of isolates you from the rest of the larger battle, so you can just kind of focus on this. And then there's also that idea of kind of the choose your own path side as well, which they've really kind of brought into a lot of video games lately. I always enjoy that because it just adds an extra dimension to the game, assuming that there are multiple endings.
Yeah, sure.
But it's kind of interesting. I like if they're gonna try to coach you along the ways of like how a Norse or like a Saxon might kind of approach the situation and kind of view everything, then mixed with the side of, you know, trying to help your Christian friends and stuff as well. I'm wondering if you can actually like kind of break down like peace agreements and like trust in people if you actually choose to kind of go against them and stick to your own morality. Or if it's just going to be like, oh, well, how could you do that? Oh, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks, you know?
Right, exactly. Like, is it going to affect the core storyline at all? Or
Exactly.
is it just going to be, like, another thing for you to kind of do, and then it doesn't really affect anything in the long run?
Exactly, yeah, because I'd love for it to actually, like, mean something, which I'm sure it will. I have no doubts about that. But regardless, it's just kind of interesting that they kind of throw that into this game as well.
So here what we're seeing is Eivor going around the countryside and raising what we call a fyrd, which is the men and the women of the territory who come up and fight in the name of a king.
The whole notion of going around and sort of finding and hiring people for crewing your ship is something that would have happened. The fact that they're including this in a game, that you have to go out and you have to find your crew and you have to find these people who will follow you on the ship is actually really cool.
Yeah, you have to build a theater, you have to build like a hearth. It's great. It's a good aspect because people won't just blindly follow you because you tell them to. Like you actually have to like earn it. You have to like win renown and like make a name for yourself essentially.
Yeah, you're not going to just get like a ship and all of a sudden it's going to be crewed by 30 men, you know?
Yeah.
By taking a couple men and raiding a nearby township, basically taking it back for the people and showing that there's a reason to continue fighting and then get them on your side.
So this is a little bit closer indicative to, Viking raids. It's kind of, you land with your ship, you run in, you kill and try to do what you need to do quickly. And then
yeah, I like the kind of graphic of everybody kind of like jumping out, like pouring out of the sides of the ship. That was pretty cool to see him just like lurch into the water and trudge up shore. That was pretty nice dynamic.
Fizz, we just saw this giant pulse go out. What exactly was that?
So that is what we call the Odin sight. The Odin sight is basically our interpretation of the eagle vision from previous games.
So Odin is obviously a god of war and a god of knowledge and a god of wisdom. He also gave up his eye so that he could see better. Think on that one. But yeah, so it kind of makes sense that if they're going to bring this back and give it like a Viking skin over it, essentially, they'd use that indicative of Odin, because not only is it your sight, but it's like just knowing the area, and it's also for like battle sense as well. And I figured there was going to be something like that, to tie it into it. I feel like there's going to be a couple other things like that to tie it in and make it more like Viking appropriate.
It'll highlight basically interactive objects, like things that will bring her an advantage. So we'll have arrows.
Sorry, just like the clubber either side of the skull and then just like drop the mic. That was brutal.
where we have fewer weapons in the game, but you can invest in them more, so they become your weapon. And so depending what your preferred playstyle is or your preferred weapon type, then you can go and choose, I'm gonna fight with this weapon and invest heavily into that.
Wasn't that like a Morningstar or something?
It was like a knife on a chain, like, yeah, it was like a giant Morningstar, but like a knife blade instead of like a flail end.
Okay. There were several different weapons that you could use back in the Viking Age. You could use swords, you could use axes, you had spears. You did have bow and arrow, for sure, for range attacks, although I feel like those weren't used as much. There's, prevailing, theories that due to their mentality, it was almost seen cowardly to be using a ranged weapon like that instead of killing your opponent face to face. But the jury's kind of out on that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there do they have morning stars.
No, Morningstar was a much later developed weapon, and like the proper medieval high ages and stuff. Not something you'd see here. I do like what they were saying about limiting your weapon availability. I just wish they limited it even more to be historical weapons.
Yeah, to actual historical weapons.
Yeah, to actual proper weapons. Like you can allow for different options of, like they mentioned earlier, like the dual wielding with like the two axes. You can do an axe and a sword. You can do a sword and a shield, an axe and a shield, a spear and a shield. Just a spear. You could do javelins to throw. You can do a Dane axe to like really do the big like intimidating Dane axe swing kind of thing overhead.
The saxes, these like
the
semi-large, the fighting knives that warriors would have on them in case the sword or their other weapon failed and they really needed to just stab somebody really quickly.
Yeah, if they got in too close and like they couldn't get the range popper to actually effectively wield their axe or a sword, they could just kind of like drop it, draw the sax and start make shish kebab, even like bringing an intimidation factor, because I feel like that would be a really cool thing in the game too, kind of break morale as like you're fighting with the dude, where it could be kind of like a cool thing if you choose to have a Dane axe and you put a lot of points into it and you do that big like Dane axe like come at me, I dare you, which one's gonna die first kind of thing. And that can have like a morale breaking kind of ability essentially too, where like if the guys start to get injured or whatever and they kind of like break and flee and then you can like just run them down or something. It'd be cool to do those little things.
I wonder if there's gonna be a feature for going berserk.
I wonder if there's gonna be berserkers in it.
There's gotta be. I mean, you have to have berserkers in video games like these.
You'd be surprised. If they do, I hope they do them well.
Yes.
Before we go too far off the board.
Yeah.
Going through the art, you basically help him deal with Rued and aligning basically Danes with Saxons in one territory.
Oh,
her name's Valdis.
Hey, it's my namesake that looks nothing like me. I did have half my head shaved for a while.
Same. Still. Funny. Was it? No, it wasn't half your head. You had like the undercut, didn't you?
It was like a third. It was like up to about here.
How far back did it go?
Like
Just
all the way
whole
back. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you points for that at least.
This is what I'm
So
looking
we
forward
see
to.
a cat here with a speech bubble above it, and you best believe if you let me talk to a cat, I'm gonna talk to a cat.
Yeah, these are some of our.
You just said cat raider way too casually. You're telling me I could have a cat Viking raider on my longship?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Oh my god, yes, I love it. Perfect.
It's all curled up.
10 out of 10. This game's amazing. We have a cat raider. Its name was she called it Mouse Biter. Like she gave the cat a kenning.
That's
like
amazing.
A vicious warrior. I love it.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to see that too, because they would have cats on farms, to keep away mice and other rodents and other creatures and everything like that.
Yeah, it was vital.
They were also representative of Freya. It's awesome that you can take a cat reading with you, and I will absolutely do exactly that.
100%.
You can basically sail up to any location and then just decide to disembark with your guys and raid a location, loot all his treasure, get back on the ship, and then continue sailing down the river. You could decide to have your skald sort of sing a song for you as you row down the river, but you can also decide, depending on who the raiders are in your ship, to hear more about their life.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I am going to learn everybody's backstories.
Same. I'm very interested to see what kind of like songs and stuff they're gonna
Me
have
too.
in the thing. Like, because I mean, we don't really have any or many examples of like Viking songs. You know, that's not really something that survived to this day, unfortunately. We have plenty of sagas and stories and all kinds of things. So I wonder if like your skald is just basically going to like recite some of the mythology, maybe. Possibly they worked with Einar Selvik to kind of put some stuff into song. That'd be incredible.
And he's really good about at least reconstructing what could have been their song.
Yeah, he has a in-depth knowledge of like Viking music and traditions and things like that, which is amazing to see. I love it.
Yeah, or what we know of it, because even, Einar himself says that there is no way that we will ever know what their song sounded like.
Yeah, not at all.
All we can do is just kind of, take educated guesses at it, but more importantly, we should just move forward and create our own versions of those songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just take it all in.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there a motor on that ship? Holy crap.
So here what we have is what we call flighting, which was an activity that Norse people partake in.
Yes.
So it's basically a precursor to rap battles.
I was about to say.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely true.
Yeah.
So flighting was a great little detail there. The mechanics of it were pretty kind of bare bones and obvious, I feel like, just trying to match up that last rhyming syllable, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's still a great example to kind of get people used to some proper Norse customs, and that would have actually absolutely been a thing. Typically at like a big hall, when you kind of at the entertainment of the king or something, or when you're feasting or having some kind of ceremony, it was common practice to kind of drink and create these poetic verses, either the surprise for as part of like to kind of show off your talent and to tell like a beautiful story, at the king's request essentially, or to throw insults back and forth and see who's quicker on their feet and who's more clever and sharp of tongue. So even though it's it's very kind of simplistic and it follows like a modern rhyme scheme, I wouldn't expect anything more than that really, because that's all it has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I said, it's just like a cute way to kind of get people used to some Viking freestyle raps.
We gave Eivor a fishing line, so you can actually throw out a line and go catch some fish.
You start to get like a little bit of a sense of what their lifestyle was a little bit more about outside of the raids.
Yeah, what they do in their downtime just to
Yeah.
like live, essentially. It was living a life. They were people, which is great. So I like that. That's what I really wanted to see after that first initial trailer we got. I wanted to see some real Viking life.
Right.
And then you can customize different body parts, having different tattoos everywhere. So again, another form of expression, and it's sort of to represent that Viking culture.
Tattoos are not Viking culture.
Tattoos are not Viking culture. We have no idea if they had tattoos. We're actually very sure that they didn't have tattoos. Personally, I think it's cool. But it's not historically accurate in the least.
That we know of.
That we know of.
It permits us to go into a slightly more mystical realm and play with a boss fight that has more magical abilities, if we will. And basically have this awesome boss fight in the middle of the swamps.
I'm interested about that. It doesn't seem like anything like Norse related because they're in East Anglia or because they're in England. I'm thinking you might have to do more with like a Celtic mythology.
Yeah, could be.
Which I don't know anything about. Like Celtic mythology is just way left field for me. So I'm interested to see if they do kind of tie some older elements of that because of course, before the Angles and the Saxons showed up, the land was heavily pagan with a bunch of old roots in an older like Bretonian and Celtic and Pictish pagan society. So that is a very interesting kind of aspect I wasn't really expecting to see in this, where they're going to kind of extrapolate on that mythology as well, but also like kind of making an excuse for it. Like the guy was saying she was poisoned, so she was kind of like hallucinating, and that makes a more like believable circumstance to start to use that like mystical side of like combat and like bring magic and spells and things into it. I like that they're kind of like finding a little bit of like a loophole to incorporate more of the mystic into a very realistic, gritty game.
Yeah,
I do
for
like
sure.
that.
Here it's all about pacing yourself with the highs and the lows. So here we have a low chill moment of what we call building a cairn. Taking in the sights, relaxing, taking a step back, and just building something.
Together we stack stones into cairns.
That's really cool.
That is pretty cool.
I feel like I'm gonna spend a lot of time in this game just doing stuff like that and just being chill. We talked about building cairns before when we were discussing Valhalla Rising.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a very much sort of that like
Meditative.
meditative, like centering yourself type of an activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of like ground yourself in the moment. And that's really cool that they give you an opportunity to do that in this game too.
Definitely. Yeah.
Being a Viking is not only about being a raider or a warrior. I mean, there's revelry, there's feasting, there's partying that goes, and like if someone knows how to party, it's a Viking. And so here, this is one of our opportunities to sort of show that.
How does this encounter with Ruth
Danax.
differ from our previous Viking?
No.
So at this
Yes.
point, he's
Oh,
eliminated
her,
this wolf,
yeah.
So it's just him, and so
His sword is
he's
really
angry.
large.
Yeah. So
That's
first
what
off,
confused me.
yeah, no. So first off, it's cool that she has a Dane axe. I'm excited about maybe that specialization. But also, his sword is way too big. That is a legitimately, like, that is a Zweihander sword. That is like a 16th century German
Yeah.
sword.
Two-handed,
Like,
large.
no,
yeah.
get out of this. Get out of the story with this. Like, come on, no.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be out on
Well done,
Xbox
Matt.
Series X and PlayStation 5, and is coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, and Stadia on November 17th.
Cool.
That looks cool.
Yeah. So it kind of seems to focus around that beginning performance of the Viking incursion into England and specifically into East Anglia. So you're kind of partnered with Oswald, who's he's not very well known, but he's one of the kings in East Anglia during the Viking incursion. Basically, it's a bit after the Great Heathen Army, but it's basically when the Vikings really sought to control and assert dominance over that region and really like kind of take a claim for itself. So we don't know too much historically about him. We do have coins minted for him, so we do know that he was a king and had enough leadership to actually create some kind of currency after his name. But it is cool that it is centered around this historical character and somebody who's a little bit vague enough where they can kind of create their own history with it as well.
Exactly.
So that
They
is
can kind of play with the story a little bit.
exactly, yeah. So that's a very clever part on their end.
I am looking forward to those like little moments in the game, like fishing and
Yeah.
stacking stones and just kind of
Yeah.
like living your life.
The downtime
almost.
activities, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm glad that they put a fair amount of thought into that as well, or at least enough to make it a thing.
Yeah,
And it
because
seems like
it
there's
also starts bringing in some of that culture
exactly
into it as well.
exactly yeah, and it seems like even though it's not necessarily like very detailed necessarily, like it doesn't go in depth into it, there's enough of it to really make a presence and make it kind of felt, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And it seems like even just in the downtime, like wasn't really listening to too much what the guys were saying because I was trying to read the subtitles and everything along with it, and just kind of like the notions that I got from that. It seems like even just in the like the background chatter of the characters and interactions, there's a fair amount of kind of like cultural relevance in that as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what I was hoping for. That's where the meat of the game is really held.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm King Redbeard.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking I'm just failing at intros today.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos. And we will see you in the next one.